This has to be the most devastating thing to ever happen to me. I noticed a change in my wife's behavior toward me around the middle to end of last year. She had a much shorter fuse and would get nasty towards me for the smallest of reasons. It was evident that something was wrong. I'm not sure how I discovered she was cheating on me, but it happened by coincidence, and there was no doubt about what was going on. This was not the first time it had occurred, however. Back in 2018, she had this coworker buddy, whom I'll call T. T would often come over after work and on weekends to hang out with us. T was also a man. It got to the point where T became our girlfriend and we all slept together on a regular basis. It was entertaining, but my wife and T developed strong emotions for one another, and it became clear that this was occurring. I knew, and had even warned my wife, that things were not going to end well if we had to divorce. While I felt I was being excluded, I couldn't take it longer and ordered my wife to cut it up or, at the very least, stop being intimate with T when I wasn't present. She did it at least one more time after that, and I discovered it. That's when I told her she had to sever it entirely. That did happen eventually, but I know they still. Perhaps it was because it was another woman that I didn't feel threatened, or because I knew this person couldn't provide for her in the same way that I could, or because I felt she could never fully be with her because of her strict family. That was all a ruse, I now think. My wife and I had an intensive discussion about everything after she had broken it off. She informed me about troubles she was having with me in our relationship, and I told her that I was more than willing to work on those issues with her, but that if she was unhappy in our relationship, it was time for us to stop it as well. She said that she really wanted to be with me and that she intended to remain married. We moved on to purchase a home and strengthen our relationship, I reasoned. Fast forward a few years to 2021, and I discover she's been having an affair with a colleague who is considerably older than her. Someone who is married, has children, and claims to be a doctor. I'm completely heartbroken. Just agonizingly depressed. I confront her, and she remains silent. She just sits there, catatonic. It takes her days only to mumble an apology. She eventually tells me what occurred and why it happened. She tells me things that further hurt me, such as she never had an emotional connection to me, she hates our home and where we live, she doesn't believe we're good for each other, she's too sensitive for me, and so on. These things really astound me. I also discover that she adores this individual. My heart feels like it's being stabbed with a hot iron. I later learned from her that I often made her feel stupid about things she desired, and that I had alienated her to some extent. I feel terrible for doing all of these things, and they are most certainly things I did, but she never informed me about them. I was never given the opportunity to make up for what I had done wrong. I can even recall particular instances when I asked her whether she was happy, and she never gave me any sign that she wasn't. I can state unequivocally that I never abused her. I believed I did a decent job of loving and caring for her. The man emails me this lengthy, rambling apologies text not long after the original altercation. It's evident that this man is a total jerk. It's so bad that I can't imagine my wife would be drawn to someone like him. I pleaded with her to return to me, to stop what she was doing and to focus on our relationship. She claims she does, but it's evident from her tone and body language that she doesn't want to. She tells me she doesn't want to continue hurting me. This, I believe, indicated that she did not want to continue our marriage since she couldn't stop what she was doing. I know she spoke to him on the phone every day after work and had covert meetings with him whenever she could. I'm at the end of my rope at this point. When I'm there, I can't focus at work and I often weep. I weep all the time, everywhere. More tears than I've ever shed in my life. I finally had enough and kicked her out of the home and filed for divorce. It was just too much for me to bear. She returns 4 or 5 days after being sent out, claiming she wants to reconcile with the guy and that she had ended her relationship with him. Her demeanor does not elicit confidence in the audience. In fact, when she tells me all of this, she seems upset with me, as if I had done something wrong on my end to deserve this. All I wanted was for my wife to come back to me at this point. So. In order to fool myself, I tell myself that everything will be okay, but I know that this will not be the case. I even contacted this guy to make sure that everything had come to a close and to notify him that if anything went wrong, I would be departing immediately. He claims that it had happened, but I had no reason to believe him. Once again, this individual is uttering gibberish and developing his reputation as a liar. Similar patterns are expected to repeat themselves in the coming weeks. So I go face to face with her once again and tell her that it is real and that the divorce is still ongoing. In our following chats, she has said that she still loves me and that she would miss me if she were to pass away suddenly. Hearing anything like this from someone who treats you so differently is the oddest thing to hear. What I've gone through has been an extremely horrific event that I doubt I'll ever forget. I simply don't see how someone could be in love with two different people at the same time. My heart would be unable to carry out such a task successfully. The sensation I get is that there will be many facets of this event that I will never be able to comprehend fully. Everything has been stripped away from me, leaving just pain and despair. What I felt I had was a connection that will be missed, and I don't think things will ever be the same again. This does not strike me as being exaggerated in the least bit. I loved this man and am heartbroken that I no longer had him in my life. I believe that the most important conclusions and recommendations are to make certain that your spouse is well cared for and that they are heard. I hope you will take this as a warning and learn from the mistakes that have been made in the past. Story 2. I'm sure my wife cheated. But I ignored it. This is our first year of marriage after almost 3 years of dating. Simply, she is the love of my life, and I would never do anything that would cause her any harm or inconvenience. This started around 5 months ago. I received a message on Facebook from someone I didn't recognize. "Your wife is having an affair with my husband," I said plainly and unequivocally. My wife was taking a bath, and I was afraid and bewildered at the same time. It was at this point that I started conversing with a woman who had explained the situation. Her husband paid a visit to the gas station where my wife works, and the two of them became friends. They had been having an affair for the last 3 months when my wife discovered it. He had a reputation for cheating, and she had reason to believe they were having, despite the fact that they were just messaging and cybering. It was she who provided me screen photos of messages from his phone that included my wife's phone number as a contact, as well as kick screenshots of herself and her friends. In the midst of our dating relationship, I overheard her on Kik talking to her ex-boyfriend, with whom she was in a fairly serious sub/dom relationship at the time. She deleted the app in front of me and pledged that she would never do it again. In order to confront him, I found his phone number from his wife and maintained my composure, and he corroborated what I had said. Despite the fact that they were in the midst of a private moment, she answered the phone for me. I was completely broken. I confronted my wife with all of the evidence I had collected, and she flatly denied everything. She claimed that her phone had been hacked. She said that she would never do it. Then she made an attempt on her life. My wife has a long history of unsuccessful suicide attempts, the most recent of which resulted in her being sent to a mental institution for 6 months just before we met. She was crying so hard that I was afraid she was going to pass out. Screaming. She pleaded with me to put my faith in her. And I was successful. I'd forgiven her and promised myself that I'd never mention it again. Later on, I spoke to one of the other pair, and he confirmed that she had stopped speaking to him, and that she had threatened to contact the authorities if he came anywhere near her again. Every day since then, I've been wondering what she gets up to while I'm not there. I'm always worried, and just thinking about it makes me feel sick. I see now that I should have stood my ground and abandoned her. I'm not looking for approval or even comments at this point. In the past, I've never told anybody about this, but I felt obligated to do so now.